ॐ सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शांति शांति शांति।
Namaskar. It's really a matter of great pleasure for me to welcome you all to this very important function, which is the release of VIF's task force report titled Towards More Effective Education, Emergence of STEM Education in India. And it's a double pleasure to welcome Dr. V.K. Saraswat, our chief guest for today, who found time to visit us this hot afternoon, found some time from his busy schedule. And I'm so glad, sir, that you came, because this task force was set up on his advice and on his inspiration. I remember when I took over in 2017, I had a meeting with him, and he underlined the importance of STEM education in India, because if we have to make progress in science and technology, in knowledge economy, etc., without a proper education system which privileges the science and technology, engineering and mathematics, and innovation, it will be very difficult for us to move forward. And arising out of that discussion and some further discussions, we set up this task force. Dr. Saraswat, it's another reason to really shake hands with him, because Mission Shakti, something with which he has been deeply involved for years and years. अभी मैं इनसे बात कर रहा था, अभी मैं बात कर रहा हूँ तो मेरे रोंगटे खड़े हो रहे हैं. It's such a wonderful achievement of India and all of us as Indians. And Dr. Saraswat has been a pioneer in this area, in ballistic missile defense, etc. And he had conceptualized this. So that's also a great pleasure to have you. We also had Dr. Reddy some weeks ago, and he also gave us the presentation on Mission Shakti, and I think we all learned from that. And also Dr. Saraswat is a distinguished fellow with the VIF, so there's a long association, and we have always taken his guidance on many issues, including the issues of science and technology. And we hope that with this task force, this is just a beginning and a start. And now we have set up a kind of a group, and we'll like to go forward and discuss many other issues, not only related to education, but other aspects of science and technology in the country. Professor K.K. Agarwal, who unfortunately had to be elsewhere today, he is the lead author of this task force report. So he could not be here today, but on his suggestion and our request, Professor M.N. Hoda, who is the director of Bharati Vidyapeeth's Institute of Computer Applications and Management, he is here with us, and he'll talk about the task force. And thank you for standing in for Professor Agarwal at such a short notice. Of course, this task force had many eminent people, and they held several meetings, and they also have been discussing with each other. And Dr. J.K. Bajaj, Director, Center for Policy Studies, Chennai; Dr. J.K. Chabda, Professor, Computer Science, NIT Kurukshetra; Dr. Ms. K.K. Devan, former Vice Chancellor, Noida International University; Professor Victor Gambhir, Vice Chancellor, Maharishi Markandeshwar University, Ambala; Professor Suresh Garg, former Pro Vice Chancellor, IGNOU, New Delhi; Dr. C.N. Krishnan, Director, AU KBC Research Center, MIT Campus, Anna University, Chennai. Dr. Ms. Pankaj Mittal, Additional Secretary, University Grant Commission, New Delhi. In addition, I do remember I also attended some meetings. There were other gentlemen also. And we have also been, yes, there are also some names like Professor Santosh Panda, former chairman NCTE New Delhi, Dr. Sukant Saran, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Mumbai, Professor Avinash Sharma, GGS Indraprasth University, New Delhi, and some other friends who also contributed with the, when we did some peer review of the findings, etc. So they also contributed. So it took a few months, but I think a very good report has been produced. I think we need to put this in some context, and I'm sure the others will speak. But India's stock today is rising, and Mission Shakti is just one example. And former chairman of HAL is also sitting here. Despite what you read in the newspapers, I think HAL has done a yeoman service for India in defense production. We are today becoming we are the sixth largest economy, probably will become fifth soon. We will become 5 trillion economy, 10 trillion economy. I think there are huge plans. The Prime Minister has tremendous vision. So I think this all we are going in the right direction. Disha or dasha दोनों ही ठीक लग रहे हैं इस समय. But for all this to happen, we need to maintain high economic growth. And today, our economy is becoming increasingly knowledge economy. If you look at our exports, of course, we have large exports, but still, as a percentage of the global exports, is only hardly 2% or something. Also, the share of high technology products in our exports is very small, maybe 1%, 2%. I don't know the exact figure, but it's very small. We're still kind of primary and secondary kind of exports that we have. On the other hand, our main competitors like China, USA, etc., they are leaping ahead, and there are many other countries also who are doing very well. So, as the importance of knowledge economy grows in the overall economic growth, clearly we have to generate knowledge, indigenous knowledge, and that cannot happen unless you have a very strong focus on science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and innovation. We are today also our armed forces are importing still about 70% of their needs, a very major national security concern for us. Our cyber security industry is virtually absent. Of course, we say that a lot of people have their R&D centers, etc., but that is, dependence. The dependence is going to grow. I mean, this figure which is often quoted is that our import of electronics, telecommunication equipment, etc., this will exceed that of oil and gas imports. I mean, that is too much. Now we are on the verge of, the world is on the verge of unfolding, unveiling the 5G technology. As you know, 5G technology will completely change the way we work because, and yet are we ready to for 5G technology? Of course, a lot of 5G technology might come into the country through imports, but what implications it will have for our society, what implications it will have for national security, I think these are very serious issues. Then, of course, there are many other technologies, whether it's agriculture, whether it's in disaster management. I remember we had a very big seminar here on earthquake preparedness. In order for us to be ready to really be ready for the next big one, we have to do many things. And again, technology in disaster, technology, we are doing much better. But I think technology is basically all pervasive. In every single field, you have to be technology savvy and you have to have your indigenous capabilities. So in this context, as we new technologies are also going to change the landscape, technology and science landscape all over the world. Fortunately, we have large, very intelligent population. We have large number of youngsters, and we can actually other countries probably have 10, 50,000 people doing engineering, etc. We have millions of people who are into this. But what is the quality of education that we are imparting them? What is the status of science, technology, engineering, mathematics education in the country? Have we factored in the future needs into our education programs? I think these are some of the issues that we need to focus on, and this task force does precisely that. It went into a large number of issues like this, and as I read out, each one of the people, I think, have about 30, 40 years of experience. So combined experience of maybe 500 years that was sitting here, and many of the task force members are here. So they have come up with some suggestions, and Dr. Saraswat is here in the NITI Aayog, and they are looking at these issues all the time, I think. Perhaps this task force may be of some use to the government, and we are now going to have a new government. Maybe there is going to be a focus on 100-day agenda, etc. I think many of these things can be certainly included. I don't want to talk much about what are the recommendations. I think I'll leave it to Professor Hoda to say a little bit, introduce the task force recommendations. And certainly, this is not the end of all. There will be many things we may not have touched upon, but we will very much like to have your recommendations. I would also, in fact, like that some of our task force member reports can go into other groups, talk to other educationists, and absorb what they have to say, and also convey what we have to. And I would also like to actually situate this task force along with two other task forces, which we just released about 10 days ago. Raksha Mantri ji did that, and the authors are also here. One was on the DRDO ecosystem of research and development, defense R&D, and Raman Puri ji did that. I think that task force also needs to be seen along with this. And we also did one task force on cyber security, but we placed it in the context of armed forces. I mean, the cybersecurity is a very large issue, but placed it in the context of armed forces because that's also. But in the end, it comes down to where are the people, where are the experts, what are our programs. In fact, Professor Hoda was just telling me there is no dearth of resources now in the country. There is a lot of money which is going into education, but I think we need to do that bit. So put it all together, bring it all together, and it falls in place. So thank you very much for coming, and thank you again, Dr. Saraswat and Dr. Hoda for coming and releasing the task force. Now, may I first request our chief guest and Dr. Hoda and task force members to kindly release this. And I now thank you. I'll request Professor Hoda now to introduce the task force to.
Good evening to all of you. Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Saraswat ji, Member NITI Aayog, the worthy Director of VIF, Dr. Arvind ji, members of task force in the audience, eminent experts from diverse domain, ladies and gentlemen. It is my privilege to stand here in place of Professor K.K. Agarwal, who has headed this task force. And on account of his last-minute exigency, he could not make it. At the outset, let me congratulate first and thank the entire VIF, particularly Dr. Arvind Gupta ji, for having shown confidence in our task force and gave this great responsibility to all of us, which was a very mammoth, very difficult, very challenging, and very diverse into the nature. But I believe, and I'm reminded of four couplets of a great poet, that आशियाने से बढ़कर है फिक्रे चमन, आशियाना तो फिर बना लेंगे हम, एक उम्मीद की लौ सलामत रहे, 100 दिए इस दिए से जला लेंगे हम. This is for VIF. A big round of applause for entire VIF team. Friends, a report of this magnitude, a mammoth task, would not have been possible without the imaginative, creative thinking, huge deliberations, and a great leadership of Professor K.K. Agarwal. Though he is not here today, but I have participated since beginning of the report and know that to which extent he has finally culminated the ideas coming from diverse background and helped us to arrive to a conclusion and wherever required written entire chapters. So my gratitude to him, and we finally at the end almost after huge deliberations believed that once we have started work we'll definitely see the light of the day, and that's how a great poet says, जो सफर की शुरुआत करते हैं वो मंजिल तो पा ही लेते हैं, जो सफर की शुरुआत करते हैं वो मंजिल तो पा ही लेते हैं, क्योंकि अच्छे मुसाफिर का तो रास्ते भी इंतजार करते हैं. Friends, in 21st century, when the entire world is moving so fast, and India, of course, one after another is keeping its pace in no lesser than any other country in this international growth. At this backdrop, understanding and realizing that what are those important issues, what are those important domains which will finally change, will revamp the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics domain, not only limited to education, but of course, primarily education. And the second, the way we think, the way we perceive, the way we understand this STEM as a whole. So it was a very difficult task. We'll give you a quick summary of what we have finally compiled, and then we'll open the floor for discussions after Sir's address. Right. So just give me 2 minutes time to read what all recommendations and a gist of the reporting which has been done. By and large, India's present-day academic institutions are focusing on publications instead of product. Everywhere, wherever we are talking, people are keep on talking what is H index, what is impact factor, what is the number of citations. Nowhere we are talking that how many products are coming into the society out of that research papers which we are publishing. How society in general is taking benefit of this entire research which is happening. Actually, we used to perceive the purpose of science is to observe and put those observation out of the nature into a formula, into a model, and then the purpose of the technology and particularly the engineering is to ensure that those formula, those model, those observations are finally brought into a form of a product which will go deeper into the society and will make the quality of life better and better at a much affordable cost. That's not happening. So the researches are limited towards the book. This results in a situation where national missions like Make in India don't get due benefit of inherent research and development, but research and development R&D organizations, potential of the country's scientists and academicians. This situation is thus not challenging the STEM higher education system to go in for drastic changes fast enough, which is need of the hour. Unless timely steps are taken, it may become too late to rectify the situation. Fast growth of India's service sector, though welcome, should not render us in a complacent situation or manufacturing sector, not even prevent us from our fair share of creativity and innovation. India is a country full of talent where we all can rise to any occasion and our internal demand for good quality products can be very high. These factors should be enough to boost R&D in design as well as development of high quality, energy efficient, eco-friendly, cost-effective and sustainable products for the benefit of the society at large. It has not happened, and we emphasize that it should not lose any more time further based on the several rounds of deliberations, and discussions with the expert, not only within or restricted to the members of the task force, but also from outside, and many valuable inputs from the Vivekananda International Foundation as well. The present report, which is put before you, is available. The entire report has been segregated in 7 chapters. Of course, the first chapter discusses the status of the development of higher education in general and the challenges it is facing in today's time in particular. The second chapter focuses on STEM education in India and futuristic approaches, where if you go through, we have tried to focus that science education, STEM as a whole and science in particular, is not limited to the science, is not limited to a kind of one particular domain, is open to a domain kind history and philosophy. And we believe that without the fundamental understanding of history or philosophy, or even understanding that this philosophy is not a science, is again a kind of philosophy. Unless we understand this, the right perception and the right interest of STEM education will not come into the picture. And at that moment, we quote a remark of Barack Obama made on 23rd of March 2015, that science is more than a school subject or periodic table or the properties of the waves. It is an approach to the world, a critical way to understand and explore and engage with the world, and then have the capacity to change the entire world. That is unquote. The next chapter 3, in fact, discusses the fundamental issues related to how the capacity can be built in terms of creativity and innovative thinking, and what are the existing bottlenecks in bringing that creative thinking. Chapter 4 discusses that how information and communication technologies, which is everywhere prevalent and becoming pervasive, can change the entire STEM education. Chapter 5 talks about what successful models or the best practices are being followed in United States of America, in China, and in other developed countries, including the European Union, and to which extent we can tailor-made, we can customize and make them applicable for our country. Chapter 6 talks about the new job arena in 21st century, and which are not limited to a fundamental or the traditional discipline of sciences, but are open on account of the advent of the information and communication technologies to the kind of the opportunities like the Internet of Things, the three-dimensional printing, artificial intelligence, deep learning, nanotechnology, cloud computing, and other domains of soft computing. It is also brought out as to how comprehensive STEM education will be required for effective solution to issues like climate change, inland water transport, infrastructural development, cyber security, and use of blockchain technologies, etc., etc. The last chapter, which is chapter 7, discusses in detail the need for improving science and engineering education in the country, with a number of new models suggested. There has to be a clear shift towards integrating knowledge and skills in the right proportion for specific jobs in order to bring out the intrinsic capability of the students. Keeping in view the diversity of our country, STEM education should also concentrate on resolving the local and the regional problems. We should also design courses for our small and medium sized enterprises, SMEs, and small startups, as it is the need of the hour. The need for developing STEM teachers and academic leaders in a meaningful way to keep inspiring the young generation, keep nurturing the innovations and creativity, have to take the light of the day. This chapter also brings out some concrete suggestions which challenges which may come up the moment suggestions are implemented. And at the end of the chapter, the same chapter, we have given recommendations, sum up recommendation in 24 different diverse domain. And if you go through the report, you will find recommendations almost of all domain of day-to-day life, and two very bold but interesting and very imaginative steps have been recommended here. That BTech program is still a popular program in science and engineering at this moment, and we have recommended that BTech integrated engineering should be started. What is happening at this moment, if a person is doing an MBBS degree, he doesn't specialize in any specific domain. But the moment he's getting a BTech degree, he is specialized to civil, he is specialized to chemical, he is specialized to mechanical, he is specialized to computer sciences, and you will be surprised to know that even a BTech civil is hired by a company like TCS, companies like Edison, companies like Infosys, to solve the problems using computer science. So they are programmers working in an IT company. So if this is happening, why can't we think of having 4 years UG program in an integrated engineering kind of domain? If at all they want to go for a specialization, they can go for a specialization in master's level. And we are not very different in thinking. Many of the developed nations like Australia and other parts of the Europe have started thinking on 4 years program, bachelor's program in seamless engineering. We are talking of integrated engineering. Second important recommendation which we have made out of the 24 recommendation is BTech vocational engineering. That every student is not made for core and fundamental BTech program. So just after the BTech program means if every institution if have got BTech computer science 60 intake, so again there should be BTech computer science vocational 60 intake, and under that vocational emphasis should be given on a skill rather than a theory. So a right blend of a skill and theory if we can give in vocational program, probably a kind of handy engineers, fully baked engineers should be made available to the industry. What is happening as on date, if you talk to the industry people, they will say that even not half baked, it's a quarter baked professionals which are being given to the industry. I have worked 4 years with CMC Limited, initial 4 years of my life before coming to academic system. And then we realized that the moment we joined industry, our superiors used to say, they are young freshers, they do not know how the live projects are being run in computer science domain. So inspire them, train them for a year. After 1 year, they will be productive. That was a kind of domain. So the kind of the induction training or on-job training for that entire 1 year was ready to be given. Now the entire shifts, the paradigm shifts have been different. Industry want people to be productive right from day one because that is the expectation from the customer coming up. A latest survey conducted on Fortune 500 customers in the world have said that around 10 years ago, the customer was ready to give 60 days cycle time. In a span of 10 years, customers are not ready to give more than 1 day cycle time. So how to increase that productivity? So we are suggesting that be it a vocational where a skill will be the focus should be kept into the mind. And third important recommendation is how can we handhold the entire education system, maybe with public, private, and government partnership. That PPP model, that even if it's a private institution, it is a public funded institution, it's a government institution. How to synergize our efforts, how to put efforts together, how to ensure that we all are working in a sync for an objective, that how STEM activities, how STEM-based education can be leveraged to every common man, and every common man in a way that the creative thinking which are there, which are inherent, should be nurtured, not rather crushed. That is the kind of entire recommendation set. We will go through the report or later after the sir's address, we may come back to the question answer or the discussion that how further we can improve. We know that how much efforts you put in is not an end. Which milestones you have achieved is not the last one, because there is always another peak to be scaled up, another chapter to be flipped on. So we are ready for that open ideas, even to improve the report further. And next important aspect, that this mammoth task which we have undertaken will see some useful results if it attracts few scientists, few engineers, few government policy planners. Then only we will see that the entire work which has been put in is useful. And with this note, we wanted to conclude that entire work, entire effort is to ensure that how to bring light from darkness, how to bring knowledge arena from a kind of ignorance. So a poet has summed up this thought that bring light from darkness, bring knowledge domain from ignorance, that ujale apni aankhon mein mahfoos kar lo, means the power of knowledge, the kind of creativity, kind of imagination. उजाले अपनी आंखों में महफूज कर लो, बड़ी दूर तक रात ही रात होगी. The challenges are at local level, challenges are at national level, challenges are at international level. Everywhere the challenges is. So the raat hogi means the challenges will be very high in darkness. उजाले अपनी आंखों में महफूज कर लो, बड़ी दूर तक रात ही रात होगी. मुसाफिर हो तुम भी, मुसाफिर हैं हम भी, किसी मोड़ पे फिर मुलाकात होगी. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Professor Hoda, for introducing the context of the report and also highlighting some of the recommendations. But actually, there are some very interesting recommendations which maybe we could come to a bit later. So now I request Dr. V.K. Saraswat to kindly make his remarks.
Good afternoon, Dr. Arvind Gupta, Dr. Uda, all my esteemed colleagues, friends from VIF and professional system of our country. I'm very happy to be here to release this very important task force report. There is an anecdote behind this initiative. When I was looking at 2015, I joined NITI Aayog, and education was one sector which was being discussed at that time in NITI Aayog. I used to find that the focus on education was only people were talking about primary education, school education, and things like that. While it was important to note that, but the main area which really contributes extensively to the growth of the nation was higher education, which was not being attended to. So I started discussing with my colleagues in NITI Aayog, and also had a meeting with the Minister for Human Resource Development. Myself and a couple of friends went there, and we said that why not we have a team to evolve what should be done as far as the higher education is concerned. There is a lot more is required. We all appreciate the gaps, and if the country has to make a tremendous progress, we should do something. So the minister said that, look, yes, we should do something at that point in time. And she said, we are trying to think of setting up a national body to start looking at the science policy and higher education policy. I waited for that. The minister changed. The new minister came. And then I went to him. I said, why not we look at the higher education again? He showed some interest. He said, you come up with some ideas, give me the names of the people and all that. So when we were in the process of giving the names, suddenly I found that the committee has been formed under the leadership of Dr. Kasturi Rangan, and they are looking at the higher education in the country, basically. So that is the point in time I met Professor Agarwal, who used to be part of the board which both of us were sharing at that time, our alumni MITS Gwalior, where I studied my education, my BTech, and he was also a member there. So I mentioned to him that why not we at the VIF start looking at higher education and give our inputs to the Kasturangan committee. That was the idea, because whether Kasturangan committee will visit VIF, I had doubts. But so why not that thinking should go into it? So that was the whole initiative. That is an anecdote, and that's how this report. And I would like to congratulate, after listening to Professor Huda, that there has been extensively good work that has been done by the committee, by the team, the task force. Because higher education, if we neglect, we are going to neglect the growth of the nation as a whole, because it is higher education which contributes to the national growth. And if we are looking for transforming our demography, which is our advantage today, we have to really look at higher education in a big way. Because if you take an overall view of the higher education today, the situation is rather grim. It's not a very happy situation. Many people say that we have large number of graduates, PhDs coming out, but we also know that what is the amount, what is the quality of those graduates, postgraduates, and PhDs which are coming out today. There's an indicator called gross enrollment ratio, GER, everybody calls it. If you compare ourselves with the rest of the developed countries, I think we are half of that. We are about 24 to 25% GER, whereas the most of the developed countries, they are in the region of 50%. And this is in the age group of about 18 to 23. This is the age group. And if you want to look at what is called the quality GER, there's a difference between GER and quality GER. This number will be further down. And that is what I was trying to mention to you, that the quality of the products which we are producing is certainly much to be desired. That is the point which we are talking of. Now, many people have commented on the investment, and you also mentioned that The investment which the country is doing as far as education is concerned is not very high. Dr. Arvind Gupta was mentioning about 4% of the GDP is what we spent on the overall education. Compared to the rest of the world, where the investment is to the tune of 6 to 8%. That is the kind of numbers which are there in the education sectors. If you want to compare with our biggest adversary today in all fields of economics, science, and technology, that is China. That number is very, very alarming. China has spent about 565 billion on education dollars, and out of that, 145 billion dollar was on higher education. We'll take the Indian expenditure on that. We spent only about 12.5 billion dollars in overall education, and higher education got the share only about 4.5. So that is the kind of ratios in which we are working vis-a-vis China. Obviously, this is a very grim situation. Now, when we look at this scenario and the way GER is there, the quality is there, we cannot dissociate higher education from the primary and the secondary education. In fact, I was reading one article the other day about foundational skills and foundational learning, how it affects the actual higher education. It was a very interesting article. He says in India, something like in the last 5 to 7 years, the percentage of kids who were checked to have mathematical skills and the comprehension skills and reading skills when they are in the 5th standard came down from 47% to 23% or 25%. That means that many number of children only can do this kind of mathematical skills and comprehension. Rest all can't do it. And then he goes and extrapolates and says that if these kids, when they go into higher classes, they are always suffering from the lack of this skill and capability. As a result, when they go into difficult and more complex subjects of science, technology, mathematics, and all that, they are always trailing behind. So they are going to be the backbenchers all the time, and they will not be able to appreciate or assimilate the essence of the higher education. So foundational learning is very important. After reading that article, I realized that this is one area where most of the countries have put their most of the money today. We don't pay to our primary school teachers. We don't pay as much salary. But actually, if you look at the other developed countries like Germany and others, they have fairly good amount of salary. And it's one story I want to share with you. In Singapore, when the Global Innovation Index was being listed out, Singapore fell from the serial number 2 or 1 or I think 3 was a position in about 2014 or 15. They fell to in 2016 to I think 4 or 6. There was the hue and cry in the nation. Why we have come down? So they started looking at what is to be done with this. So they analyzed. They analyzed and found that most of the bright students who were coming out from the universities were not taking to the teaching profession. Reason, the salaries of the teachers were not attractive. So what they said is that first of all, change the salary of the teachers. They increase the salary of the teachers. Number 2, they said teachers will be only those who appear in the first 200 in the graduation list of merit. If you are in first 200, then only you can take up the teaching profession. So you not only have the best brains to do the job, you also had the attraction, and that's how immediately within about 3 years that innovation index jumped for that. So these are the kind of initiatives the nations have taken for doing this, and foundational learning is one among them. All of us are looking at what is happening in the technology arena. After all, we are talking about STEM. STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This is why it is being taught today. Because it is being taught today, because the way the disruption in technology is taking place, these disruptive technologies are demanding a change. And this change is dependent upon these 4 subjects. Now, you mentioned some of those. I won't repeat them. But the impact on the industry of that is that we are going into the industry 4.0. When we are going into the industry 4.0, we are all looking at smart factories, smart services, smart governance, smart administration, smart everything, smart buildings, everything. Education cannot remain in the domain. We have to go and change the education from what used to be education 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and today we are all talking of education 4.0. If we have to really make a difference, if we have to make a difference, then we have to jump to education 4.0, which is creation of the industrialized universities, universities which will support the industry. That is what we are talking of. And then what these universities will do, they will create what we call as employable graduates. Employable graduates are those who have got fluency in the subject in which they are actually trained, those who are have good cognitive skills and communication skills, those who are having a social engineering as one of the major parts, and they are global digital citizens. These are some of the capabilities you have to provide if you have to really make them as something which will do the job. So education 4.0 and 1.0. So if you want to go into industry 4.0, you can't be following in education 2.0. What is education 2.0? Is basically teacher driven, kind of some kind of a information being passed on. Student learns or does not learn is not a major issue. Student is not centric, it is teacher centric. So this is not done. Now with the internet coming in, now with the variety of things which are happening around us, I think it is important that education 4.0, which is learner centric, which has got connectors, which has got the creativity, all this has part of the thing. And finally, that is the one which will give us what is called innovation. Because like the higher education is the engine of growth, innovation is the ultimate engine of growth. If we are really going to have STEM education, what for you want STEM? Because you want to improve your the innovation skills. If you want to have higher innovation, good STEM should be available. So we need to go for that in education 4.0. So what should be our student profile in that education 4.0? He should have excellent communication skills. He should have collaboration skills. He should have creative thinking, and he would have creativity at the helmet. Now, how does it happen? When we were talking all about the innovation, we were talking of, can we introduce in our system design thinking? Now, that is where Professor Huda's point came. Integrated BTech or whatever new ideas you have. Actually, design thinking is one important aspect of our higher education system that has to come. Wherein all the eight steps of design thinking, right from the idea to taking to the product, all these steps are being taken care of as part of the overall process. How do we do that? So we have to bring design thinking into the whole process. What is wrong in our present education today? We have all come out from the engineering colleges right from 1950s, 47 or whatever time, Thompson Engineering College in Roorkee down to IISc and final everybody. Our focus has been, and even today that has been, science of engineering. We have always concentrated on science and engineering, science of engineering. Our main problem is we have not concentrated on technology of engineering. We have to convert our educational institutions which are giving particularly the engineering education. We have to focus on technology. That is why we have never created designers in our country. You see, if you look at anything that has happened in our country is based upon the borrowed designs. Whether it is the tank which we manufacture, or we manufacture the aircraft, or we manufacture the thermal power plant, or we ship, designs are not mine. Our manufacturing is mine. Our process of doing component is mine. But design comes every time. And this is irrespective of private sector or government sector. Even the private sector has a similar kind of a situation. They continue to borrow designs from, whether it is Mahindra's automobiles today or Tata. Even today, the engines for these automobiles are coming from the foreign country. Barely anybody is designing his own engine. Some modeling is being done by Italian companies, and finally we are converting them into the latest automobiles. So design has to become, then the engineering education has to become, has to inculcate the design thinking as a major part. Technology is playing a major role. I think your report has covered extensively. I just browsed through on the web the technology. education technology. I think we cannot now continue to the same concrete and that kind of a building in which the education was imparted. Education has to be adaptive. So as a result, the new internet-based education systems which are coming, the self-learning systems which are coming, for example, the mobile internet which provides today access to every subject which you can learn yourself. And people are doing business in this. For example, the Khan Academy, the Byju's Academy, or what we call as the upgrade or the simple learn. All these software packages which are there today gives you tremendous access to the. And now all this is going to change further because artificial intelligence is going to change the complete teaching learning process altogether. It is going to bring such a change that your class, your based upon your weakness and strength, the course content can be modified in real time. And you can have a virtual reality system by which you will be able to see whether there is a tutor in front of you or not there in front of you. So that is the kind of change which is going to take place. And those who are into the business, I'm telling you, investment in this area is becoming almost about $250 billion in just 1 year. This is the kind of investment which is going to take place. And already many of our Indian universities have started following what is called MOOC, the massively online open courses over internet, which are serving the purpose. IIT professors are able to now send their lectures into NITs and other universities and vice versa. So that is happening, is the biggest thing that is happening. So Indian digital learning market also is going fairly high. In fact, the growth in this area is $247 million. That is the kind of growth that is taking place. Government of India has also started its own program. I think some of you might be party to that SWAYAM program. I don't know whether you are aware of that. It's a digital platform over which education is being provided there. Now, obviously, if we really want to make this difference, we can't continue with the type of universities what we have today. Our honorable former Prime Minister Pranab Mukherjee ji, he conducted 3 days workshop, and some of you might have attended that at that time, on how to create, at least in India, some world-class universities. Now, what is the need? Why are we saying that we should have world-class universities? It is because the quality of the students which are producing has got something to do with the environment in which we are teaching them. So he said that at least a couple of universities in this country should be world-class universities. We don't have even one. So again, at that time, we had a lot of recommendations made. We again said Industry 4.0, Education 4.0, ICT-based systems, and so on. But the most important thing when we did the dissection of the education system in the universities, particularly because the state governments are actively involved in running the universities today, because education is a concurrent subject, it led to a situation that the state universities versus central universities, that itself there's a big gap. If you see the standard of the central universities, vis-a-vis the university, exceptions are there. I'm not making those exceptions. But generally, the gap is very, very high. The state universities standards are rather poor. Then central universities, and then the national universities like IISCs and IITs, there again there's a difference. So this itself shows that we have different layers in as far as the education system is concerned. Why the state universities are so poor? We found that the state universities are not at all autonomous. There is so much of constraint in each and everything, right from financing to everything, that they are not in a position to move an inch. There are universities where the syllabus has not been modified even for last 10 years. So the autonomy is what is more important aspect. We said, all of us said, whom to teach, who will teach, and what will be taught. Professor Indresan used to say. He used to say, the autonomy should be, I should have the freedom to choose whom to teach, who will teach, what will teach. These 3 things should be completely given to us. Unless we do that, we can't do that. Next point was promote international collaboration. Our students go all over the place for higher education. Every IIT boy or girl would like to immediately, within 3rd year itself, they're all pushing. Now, not only IIT, even the normal universities, boys and girls, because bank loans are available, so they are able to go. They are not waiting for scholarships, and so they go away. Why is it the same amount if I have a good university? How many foreign students are coming to IITs? How many foreign teachers who are coming and taking postdoc or what we call a sabbatical in our IITs? Numbers are very few. Now that means international and global collaboration is an important aspect that has to be done. Joint collaboration and things like that. We have to be relevant to the industry. We have to be relevant for the national laboratories. In fact, there was a very interesting seminar the other day. It was organized by the Harvard University and ArcelorMittal. I happened to speak on that occasion also. 2 points I mentioned was that Indian research, since Professor Huda was talking about it, under the umbrella that basic research should be done, has been additive and repetitive. Actually, barring few great scientists which India has produced like C.V. Raman and J.C. Bose and all that, all the Nobel laureates who have got Nobel Prizes are those Indians who have gone abroad and worked abroad in that ecosystem, whether it is Khurana or it is, the recent guy, Ramakrishna and so on. All of them have lived there while they had MSc education, they had done there. So there is a transformation that has taken place in the same student. Had they been probably in India, I doubt whether they would have got the kind of, because the ecosystem here promotes, you are talking of H index, this index, that index and all that. Our whole focus is only in publication. We have lost relevance as far as science for society is concerned. That's relevance. If it is not there, innovation is the thing that gets beating. That's why Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi ji said that, friends, if you have to make some input to the society, you should work on translational research. You should change from the basic research to translational research. Even basic research has to be directed basic research, as Dr. Chidambaram used to say, or a relevant basic research. Of course, there were some members in the committee who said, what is basic research is relevant? Basic research is like apple falling. Then I only told them, apple falls only once in a while. It doesn't fall on every day. But basic research has to be done, in such a manner that it has some relevance. So it is important that we have our focus on translation, and as much we can do. If we want to really make an impact on the innovation index, we have to go focus on translational research. And finally, I would like to say that STEM cannot improve unless we have improvement in our university system, and also we invest a huge amount of money on our science and technology. Our 0.6 or 0.7% of the GDP on the S&T cannot make that difference. We have to come in the league of China spends 2.5% on of its GDP. US is about 4% of its GDP. And we are 0.7 to 0.8%. We are 1.25 billion people. We are producing largest number of scientists and engineers today. How can we be doing a quality thing unless we have good investment? And why this good investment? It is to improve the quality of the infrastructure which our education institution should have, both in terms of equipment as well as in terms of attracting the talent, the student talent, the teacher talent, and also ensuring that then we have much better collaboration with the international community in this field. STEM will improve if we have all these aspects. I hope this task force report will do some government service. Some inputs from this can go into Kasturi Rangan report, and the Department of HRD will take cognizance of the good work which the team has done and bring about major changes as far as their science policy or the STEM policy is concerned. Wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
So, I think with those thought-provoking presentations, many ideas have been thrown up, but I think there was a commonality that we have to really get our act together though there may not be enough resources, but whatever resources we have, even that are not being spent. And I think this question of autonomy, that is probably the crux of the issue, because our teachers, they should have, and I think Indresan's thing that you mentioned, I used to know him, and he was really a good, very great thinker. This thing about what is it that we need to teach should be left to the teachers. What is it that is need to be studied should be left to the students, and different students will be of different grades. So I think, and the rigid system that we have, I think you mentioned about 1 day cycle. No, how are we ever going to do it unless you bring that flexibility? So with that, now I open the floor for discussion, but I'll first go to the any task force member who would like to make a few words here, please, very briefly, if you could. You could also introduce yourself to the audience here.
Professor Kumkum Diwan, former Vice Chancellor, Noida International University, and I was also the Vice Chancellor of Jamia Millia University. Basically, a professor of mathematics, taught mathematics for about 44 years. And I have taught this subject not only to the university students, but also to the school students and generations. They have been my own children, neighbors' children, grandchildren, and in fact, today also I teach a 4-year child and a 14-year-old boy. So I do have some concerns, and I have not gone through the entire recommendation, but yes, most of the recommendations I have gone through this. Well, firstly, regarding the skill education in the universities, my experience is, especially the engineering students, whatever skill training they do, whatever project they do, it is a mere eyewash. 3 months is hardly anything. They just get the reports typed or copied and do some small thing and they submit it and get the grades or the marks. I feel, I have said this earlier also in several forums, in fact, in the forum of the Vice Chancellor Conference where the minister was also present. I have always been saying their problem is where to go and where to get the training. My request to Dr. Saraswat especially is that it should be made mandatory under corporate social responsibility that if you have an employee strength of 1,000, at least 50 students they should train free of cost. And the child should know that if I want training of this type, I can go there and I will not be reduced. It will be beneficial both for the student and the industry. And when he finishes course, it will be not that he doesn't know anything. And as far as project is concerned, one semester should be the minimum. 1 month, 2 months training is nothing, like in medical. I still remember my daughter, when she got the degree of MBBS, she came to me and she said, Mom, this degree is there, but I don't know anything. I said, what? And it was only after the internship, which she did for 1 year, that she developed the confidence. So this training is necessary. If you can do something, and I think the students will be really, you'll do a lot of good for them if they know where to go. And we have lot of industries in Delhi NCR only. That is the first thing I would like to say. And regarding research, as you said, they are bothered only about X index and this index and that index. I have over 100 publications. I never bothered about all these things till the time when the NAC people came and we had to submit the report. I said, what is this? One has to calculate the points and X index and this index and that index. Otherwise, we used to do research out of interest. No compulsion, no points for promotion, nothing. So these things, if are made compulsory, then the quality of research will go down. And any good research is possible only if it is interdisciplinary research. The walls between the subjects, the departments, they have to be broken down. then only good research is possible, not otherwise. I was fortunate that I had the opportunity and I established the Center for Research in Basic Sciences, where we had people from mathematics, computer science, physics, chemistry, biosciences, everybody working together. And I suppose in Jamia Millia Islamia, it is the biggest center and maximum research and papers are being published from there. And yes, they are all work is being done as per the need of the country. And I don't think I can take that much time, but one or two points I would like to say. I'm just wondering which point to lay emphasis on. In school, my earnest request to the government, to the country, if I see the students, especially of the government schools, believe it or not, a class 10 child cannot read the class 2 book. It may be English or it may be Hindi. What education are we trying to give? So, what I feel is till class 5, they should be taught only two subjects, one language and one maths, because they can't start maths altogether. And if they do only these two, other subjects, if they want to teach, all right, but don't take examinations. You know, they, if you want to tell something about the fire brigade, show them, let them see, let them understand. But as far as exams are concerned, tests are concerned, then only two subjects, a language and mathematics. We can't do without mathematics. And that is the reason I'm saying. And again, the school teachers, as you said, the salary, I have been saying, if a person is a PhD and wants to teach the primary children, pay him or her as per her or his qualification and let that person teach primary children. Well, I think I'll stop here because many others would like to say. Thank you.
Yes.
फ्रेंड्स, मैं प्रोफेसर अविनाश शर्मा हूँ आईटी यूनिवर्सिटी में, और दो पॉइंट से मैं अपने आप को भाग्यशाली समझता हूँ। एक तो मेरा फील्ड जो रहा है पार्टिकल फिजिक्स, हार्ड कोर थ्योरी, विच इज उसके बाद सिर्फ फिलोसफी है, प्योरेस्ट ऑफ द फॉर्म। दूसरा मैं समझता हूँ कि मुझे आईपी यूनिवर्सिटी में आने का मौका मिला, प्रोफेसर अग्रवाल साहब जो एक बहुत विजनरी एक्सपीरियंस है उनके साथ काम करने का, और वो मौका बहुत कम लोगों को मिलता है और मुझे मिला, और एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को रेज करके, एंड माय फर्स्ट असाइनमेंट ही गेव इट टू मी वाज टू प्रोड्यूस ए विजन डॉक्यूमेंट फॉर द यूनिवर्सिटी, and how do I visualize a university to be after 20 years, 50 years. And I'm happy to see that we released that document in 2002, और आज भी 20 साल के बाद जो हमने उस वक्त विजुलाइज किया था, that stands implemented, and we have experimented in a huge way in an open format with all full autonomy, and Hoda Saab is a witness to all those, that all type of experimentation we have done. Another thing which my concern was in the report was the every country has its own strengths. So India also have our very strong cultural strengths. Somehow we have missed in between, and we have to integrate our education to that. And once we are aiming to convert our entire education system from knowledge delivering system to knowledge creative system, I think we are well placed. We are one of the best placed countries in the world. We started with the philosophy. I've always believed philosophy जब ही होती है जब पेट भरा होता है, कि उसके बाद, and we are talking to each other many times in a daily line, कि philosophy मत झाड़िए. I mean, philosophy is right in our genes, and we had totally forgotten. Most of the universities have actually closed down their department of philosophy. Somehow we have to integrate our cultural strengths. Some days before, I heard a talk like, Ayurveda in my kitchen. I mean, the entire science is right in your kitchen. So those are not no documentation. I mean, it's just moving ahead. So our cultural strength has to be integrated with us. In that context, we are very much rightly placed in the STEM education. Mathematics is pure abstractions, And my concern in this report has been I was very particular about scientific temper among masses, which is extremely important. The general level of it's a mindset which has to be changed, and we have deliberated quite at depth and with all diverse type of people, and we have given some recommendation. I think even if the 50% of the recommendations stands implemented, I think we have done our job.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening. I'm Professor Santosh Panda from Indira Gandhi National Open University. Till recently, I was chairperson of National Council for Teacher Education, Government of India. I must very sincerely appreciate you have included me in the task force for deliberations, though I have not been able to attend the meetings. But as I read through, I must congratulate that very significant, as Professor Saraswat has been talking about. Quite a few things have been deliberated in the past also, and a lot of things have got place in the report. I am a regulator. I have experience of regulation, but then regulation cannot do unless the professoriate changes. मंत्री जी तब मुझे आपने मंत्री जी की जिक्र की, मंत्री जी तब मुझे कहती थी हम शिक्षक शिक्षा में फिनलैंड की मॉडल चाहिए, वो बेस्ट इन द वर्ल्ड है। मेरे जवाब यही होता था, मैडम वो फिनलैंड है, हम भारत है। हम भारत की धरोहर से अगर इस चीजों को बना सकें तो इससे बेहतर कोई हो ही नहीं सकता। उन चीजों से हम सीख सकते हैं, लेकिन धरोहर हमारी है और धरोहर भरपूर है। तो अगर इसको जगा जाए, my experience tells me that the most difficult people to change are the professoriate people. आप कहते हैं, मैं सीधा बात करता हूँ कि प्रोफेसर लोग अगर हमारे बदल जाएं, ये तमाम चीजें बदल जाएं। मैं इसके ज्यादा समय नहीं लूंगा, एक गुजारिश करूंगा। जब भारत सरकार के तहत MHRD के तहत कोई कॉमनवेल्थ लर्निंग जिसमें गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एज ए कंट्री इज ए मेंबर, उसके तहत कुछ काम हुआ है, उसको मैं हाल ही में कंप्लीट किया हूँ। How to skill the undergraduate students who are coming out at degree without any employability skills. Besides STEM, that the larger majority chunk of the students who are coming out of university education, college education are undergraduate students. मसला ये है कि उनको किसी तरह हम किसी रूप में अगर वो स्किलिंग कॉम्पिटेंसी और तमाम 21st सेंचुरी स्किल्स एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ उसको डेवलप करें, एक रिपोर्ट हमने बनाई है। अगर इजाजत हो तो मैं आपको पेश करूंगा और या उसी संस्था के माध्यम से आपको दूंगा, उसको थोड़ा सा गौर करिएगा कि हाउ टू स्किल द अंडरग्रेजुएट स्टूडेंट्स हु आर कमिंग अप विच से भी STEM एजुकेशन. So that is that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah. Okay.
My name is H.K. Agarwal. I am an industrial engineer with a 65 years background abroad and in India, and 5 years in a school. In 1940, a government high school was converted into a specialized technical school with 2 added subjects, workshop practice and engineering drawing. And 40 hours a week used to be the classes, including this day. You see, technology involves imbibing of brain and brawn energy. Without that, it's very difficult at the higher level. Even an automobile engineer goes to a mechanic of 15 years old to get his scooter repaired. What are we talking about? Unless we develop our education, technical education, right at the school level. In 1940, this school was established, which produced excellent results. It is not the B.Tech degree which creates development. It is the M.Tech degree. You see, B.Tech boys, they are mostly executives, but it's only the R&D, application of R&D which you can use after M.Tech. I have been visiting technical institutes, universities and schools. In one of the premier institute, I got 2 boys from M.Tech and they could not develop a simple oscillator circuit. Now, it's very difficult. They may be having theoretical knowledge which you can write on the paper, but when they cannot produce it, how are we going to develop technology? So I feel, and I can give a paper on this, that we must start specialized technical school and a technical board right at the school level. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Suresh.
Professor Huda mentioned about Make in India, and I have a small um, question on this Make in India itself. I mean, if it is going to promote innovation in the country, then Make in India, if it is based basically on buying technology and doing something, then it will be what we have been doing all these 70 years. Get something, license, produce it. And I visited Bharat Earth Movers. We got such a large requirement of metros in this country. What were they doing? Building the carcass, but the two basic elements, which is the undercarriage and the electrical system, it was outright import, and it is going to be imported for the rest of the time that is going to come. Maybe it will take 5 years, 10 years, I don't know how much it will take. But if Make in India is not encouraging in domestic research and development, then we can keep on educating everybody. Who will employ them? If technology is going to be used in R&D, in production, yes, you will have production engineers, foremen. That's the type of people you require in production. And even production engineering to convert R&D into production, that is the big problem over here. And that is largely because we are very happy, even the industry over here is very happy, not spending 2 hours on even production engineering. They would like to get a good production drawing from X, Y, and Z. I am, with all due respects to HAL, that's the same problem over there. That we just get drawings, produce, and then say, indigenize ho gaya. That sort of thing, till that mindset changes, we are prepared to make mistakes, we are prepared to fail, and prepared to improve. STEM education will automatically come. The moment the industry demands that we produce people who will help them produce what they want and not just buy whatever is want, and the government has to demand it. Look at civil engineers, aircraft industry. I know of NAL wanting, God knows for how much time now, years after years, Professor Dr. Saraswat will be knowing, wanting to develop a regional transport aircraft, all designs, everything that's been done. But nobody's prepared to risk some 800 or 900 crores to start the project, or 8,000 crores, I don't know, to start the project. So if we don't have large programs in the country to develop things over here, produce them, maybe it will take 2 years longer. But in the end, I don't think neither we will be exceeding on cost nor exceeding too much on time. And Dr. Saraswat ASAT program, where I think the technologies that have been used, there is nothing more to be, no more technology to be developed in that area at least. So if we don't, I mean, we can, otherwise we can keep debating, make papers, but if the youngster who's going to come out of the university will only find employment if things are developed over here, he will not find employment if you are buying technology.
Just to add a point here, the Chinese, when they come up with these big programs, like they were building these 3 gorges, any big program, they make sure that there is a R&D component to it. So that is inbuilt. So even if it's a civil engineering program, roads, bridges, tunnels, this, that, etc., every program of theirs has a very strong R&D component. We, of course, are making so much infrastructure. Highways are being made every day. But where is the R&D? Anyway, anybody else would like to? Yeah. Okay, एक मिनट आपके पास आता हूँ.
You see, talking of R&D, you see, IIT Delhi had developed a system to convert diesel bus into battery electric bus. A very economic, innovative solution. And BHEL has also done it about 30 years ago. I think you must have seen the battery buses running. But over the last 10, 15 years, the technology was not allowed to come on the road. And even this government, for the last 5 years, didn't have any policy to allow this thing. And we are getting Chinese, although it's a very simple process which we can do. This is the type of thing I have been writing to NITI Aayog about this thing, but nobody is bothering about this thing.
I think we have to draw a line. Please sit down. The problem lies again with IIT Delhi. Problem lies with VIT, whichever VIT has done. Again, I will mention to you that translation to commercialization is our biggest problem. Merely demonstrating one bus running in the campus of IIT that I have done this work is a long way to go to commercialization. Our engineering professionals in universities, in national laboratories, in schools and colleges lack that particular aspect of commercialization. Large number of scientists have demonstrated many processes and phenomena. I'm telling you, in India they would have done. Whether it is converting biomass into gasoline and diesel or making some electric bus or so many. You go there, I can convert MSW into energy. But when it comes down to a municipal corporation asking for, give me this technology to convert MSW to energy, and you do the evaluation of that technology, it is not even gone to TRL 4 or 5. Sir, there is a technology development cycle, is a very complex cycle. And the education system, which is doing today what Madam was telling, and somebody mentioned about projects, and you only mentioned about projects. Sir, I am a student. I am not a IIT graduate. I did my engineering in Madhav Engineering College, Gwalior, which was set up in 1956 by Maharaja Sindhia. The type of teachers and the professors were such that they made me do the design project for one full semester of 6 months. And it was not that I could go to a market and buy my project report as the kids are doing today and submit it, and he will allow that. He not only made me write the design report, he made me manufacture that particular diesel engine and asked me to show it running. Of course, it did not run properly. All that, he excused me. That's why he gave me only 80 marks. Otherwise, he would have given me 90 marks. But the detail to which the professor made you do that work, today's professors are not doing. Sir, even in NIT, I was a PhD guide for PhD examiner for one of the IITs, and you won't believe the PhD thesis from IIT, the fundamentals of that subject, the PhD student was lacking. And today, with this internet available, cut, paste, copy here and there, you can produce any thesis without understanding. So we have technology misused. We have passion and what is called the cultural aspect, which somebody again mentioned. The cultural aspect of our society has gone down to such a level that we are ready to cut corners on each and everything. The quality suffers there. You may be NABL accredited and all that, but that does not mean anything. I have seen many industries which are ISO certified. You say ISO 14,001, whatever that, 14, 16, 19, 20, and all kinds of things are there. But when you go down to the real shop floor, the situation is bad. That is the difference between a European institution and an Indian institution. We have gone so down in our cultural ethos today that what was Nalanda and Takshila is no more, it's only a dream. We had Nalandas and Takshilas. The thousands of students used to come and study from outside. Today only some Nairobi or some Nigeria or Tanzania, some students come and join Delhi University. Who is coming from Argentina, or who is coming from North America, who is coming from South America? Nobody is coming. Mainly because the quality, the passion which the teachers have to teach, the management which is there is so bad. And unless we improve that, nothing is going to happen. That is the problem. You can say that IIT fellow has shown that so many people are doing today. But these last 4 years, I want to mention this is a great achievement of this government. There is a transformation that has taken place. There's so much push in the universities today, in the IITs at least I'm seeing, people are now taking their work to commercialization. They're coming with the incubation centers. They're coming up with the startups and things like that. This is a good beginning. It has taken 3 to 4 years. I'm sure in the next 10 years, this will augment further and further. But the fundamental thing which is there in the primary education, in the secondary education, unless we revamp that, the higher education will continue to suffer. What Madam said, somebody said that the 10th class student is not able to read this 5th class book also. I mean, this will continue. And our previous government has done a great job that up to 10th class, no examination. That was another great joke. A great joke. They completely messed up the education system.
Well, we have only 5 minutes left, so I'll very quickly go through this very briefly. One sentence.
No, I have a question. I wouldn't like to comment. I think we've had enough comments. I completely connect with the vision is there, designing and 21st century skills. But when do we see that happening is the bigger question, because our children are really in need for that. I see there's a cramming of information. There's not enough time that children have to process and synthesize the knowledge that they're receiving today. So when do you think we can see some changes?
That is why I was very keen. This question is very relevant. Why do you think I gave you the story? I went to 2 ministers. Because I personally felt that this incremental changes in the science technology policy and the educational policies which have been taking place from the days of Kothari to Yashpal to now Kasturi Rangan, these are all called incremental changes. This country cannot continue with these incremental changes. You are trying to build on a system which is itself so weak. Obviously, a weak foundation will have a very, very weak edifice. Nothing will come out. So what I am talking of is, for example, engineering course used to be 5 years course. We cut down to 4 years course. Technology has gone up. What used to be, the syllabus which used to have only 48 credit courses. When I did MTech, it was 64 credit courses. I am told that even 200 credit courses are not enough. So you are compressing time. That is one. Second thing is, your selection process for kids who have to join engineering is so lenient today that a child who gets 38% in intermediate also gets admission in the college. How will he be an engineer? As Madam says, he or she doesn't have even the basic skills. How can he learn those complex engineering or medical or science skills? Obviously, what will happen? The teacher will have to somehow pass him. So he will be a bad engineer. So the bad teacher, because he is not doing justice, bad engineer, because he has not been able to do that. I want a very radically different science and technology and engineering policy that has to come in this country. There are good suggestions like, why not we bring vocational courses along with the engineering courses? Yes, it should be done. Why compress it to 5 years? If the medical education up to DM, a fellow is almost 30-year-old when he gets his DM. In engineering, by 25 years, he is MTech or PhD or he is going for a job. Why have we compressed this education? What is the need for us? And there are educationists, maybe some of them are sitting here also, who have recommended in previous reports. Even the medical education has cut down to, I think, 4.5 years or something. Why? What is the urgency for him to, what is the need? No, we need more engineers. We need more PhDs. What is the point in having 10,000 PhDs who have no good PhDs? I would rather have one MSc who is a good fellow rather than have 100 PhDs with poor PhD qualification. So these are all some recommendations which have come from time to time from our own colleagues. They need to be relooked in a drastically, different manner. Bring in substantial changes. Don't do layer by layer building on a wrong edifice. Otherwise, the situation will continue to remain same.
Yes, please, very briefly.
Two things, sir. Number one, unless we improve our primary education, like Madam pointed out, I don't think any change in your higher education system would.
Agreed.
I'll tell you one thing, like we in schools, the children are so overburdened. In a class 3 student, he has to learn 3 languages. He has to learn English, he has to read Sanskrit, he has to read Hindi. I don't know how he copes.
I coped up. I also came from the same school. I had 3 languages, English, Hindi, Sanskrit. Up to 11th class, I studied Sanskrit.
I'm not talking about up to 11th. I'm talking about from class 1.
No. We started doing from 6th standard to 11th standard.
You start from 6. That's the point I'm making. Secondly, the big difference that we're talking about in our system and the European system probably lies in the what we see the medical system. I am sure you know more than me about it. Like in America, you cannot do your residency till you have cleared your theoretical paper, what they call it, MLE or something like that. Moreover, fundamental difference in India, MBBS only students from biology can do it. Unless you studied biology up to 12th, you're not allowed. Whereas in Europe and America, any graduate from arts, science, mathematics, philosophy, he can join. If he clears the MLE exam,
Sir,
only then.
these are not the
These are
issues.
basics.
Sir, these are not the issues. Issues are very simple. Issues are we training our person adequately to take complex subjects like medical engineering or higher education which demands? We are not training them for that. That is all our problem.
So two RNEs at the at the primary level, as Madam said, the standards are falling, syllabus is expanding. So unless you narrow it down to few things like maths, which is absolutely essential, teaching him the whole variety from history to whatever doesn't make sense. At the higher end, R&D expenses, I was just looking at some figures. In China, corporate sector, the top companies like Huawei and so on, which may be infamous for other things, they spend 8 to 15% of their sales on R&D. The Indian norm is 2% of the net profit, and that is hardly met and mostly misused as a tax shelter.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Yeah, you see, in our country, brilliant IIT graduates, they either go abroad or they join an MBA, because that's where the money is. So how do you increase the return they get from engineering jobs in different companies? That's so important. Secondly, and we are having a great increase in crime, corruption, destruction in all over India. And this can be only corrected if we put in more resources into humanities, into history, humanities, history, philosophy. Science and technology is not going to get us anywhere unless our basics, morality also improves. So you can't have this concentration only on.
Yeah. Yes, please. There. This is the last question.
Om Vikas. In fact, we are talking about Global Innovation Index. Of course, India happily mentions 57, we raised from 60 and 66 and 81. But the whole issue is, if we compare with China, the innovation efficiency ratio for China, it is 0.92. Most of the advanced nations have this kind of ratio above 0.90. But for India, it is just 0.65. So that clearly shows the innovation productivity of our scientists, engineers is much lower. We have to really look into that. The other aspect is ITI education is one. We also talk of this. We normally say future innovation will spring from the bottom of pyramid. And hence we normally talk about ITI education. But surprisingly, these two, technology education, which is through AICT, and ITIs, these are disjoint. They don't talk to each other. The curriculum, there is a total mismatch. The next point is, there's mention about API, Academic Performance Index. There is the stress is in NAC and NBA both on paper publication. Why the teacher should break head to really go for commercialization, producing something, failing and not being able to produce the papers? So the issue is there's something wrong in the accreditation policy and the promotion of the teachers as well. So we have to look into this. Secondly, always we talk of the entrepreneurship. Our focus is on students all the time. But we have to remember, it is the teacher who should be encouraged to become the entrepreneur.
Becomes
Entrepreneur. Let him also set up some incubation unit and such. If he does so, teaching learning methodologies will automatically change. And this is how you can improve the quality of technical education. Next point is, in first year of graduate program and also ITIs, polytechnics, there is imposition of English. That is really bothering. Not able to really comprehend. So in such a case, we have to really see this language issue should also be taken into consideration, because it is easy to learn in Hindi and other Indian languages the basic concepts. And once basic concepts are clear, you can build up more complex concepts. Naturally, transition after the basic concepts are clear through other languages becomes easy. Next point is about the integrated curriculum. This has been talked about. It's a good idea. 5-year program. We had a lot of HS humanities courses. Now, in 4-year program, those courses have been reduced. The result of that is people are not really sensitive about the society. They don't know about themselves. So those courses on sociology, psychology, philosophy should have been there. Next issue is there is a no, nobody is asking.
You'll have to conclude it because
Now,
you're
last point is, whatever research we do, our researchers never worry about referring to the science and technology advancements in ancient India. Let it be encouraged. I'm sure things are going to improve.
Well, this last point that you mentioned is part of one of our recommendations. Yeah. Would you like to say a few words and then I'll request Dr. Saraswat?
Let me admit that it has been a very Let me admit that it has been a very fruitful discussions. Many concerns were raised. I will request to all of you, please go through the report. Almost all the concerns which have been raised here have been discussed in the report in one or other way. Of course, I have noted down, and task force will again deliberate that if some articulation is required to some of the recommendation based on these concerns. But all these concerns, right from the madam's concerns of copy and paste, which is happening in the day-to-day academic system, till almost the idea of bringing interdisciplinary subjects within an integrated program, almost all these concerns in one or other way we have discussed and we have incorporated in some of the recommendation. Please go through that, and would like to have your feedback to VIF that what you think about it and how you want to improve it further. With this, I will say thank you to all for being part of this release ceremony. Thank you.
I'm very happy that I got a lot of ideas from the participants who have come here today. I can only say that if we have to really make real impact as far as the education system to the growth of society is concerned, we have to make some radical changes. And radical changes will start from primary education to secondary education. Automatically, it will happen in the higher education because the foundation has to be strong. There are various models for that which have been studied. In NITI Aayog, we studied the Switzerland model. We also studied the Finland model, where people have been doing up to 12th standard vocational courses and the normal academic courses in parallel. Only at the end of 12th standard, depending upon your aptitude, you decide whether you are going into the academic line or you are going into the vocational line, which leads to the technology things which you are talking of, going into factories, setting up factories, tool rooms, this, that, and all that. And then, of course, there are good number of people who are good in academics, have interest in academics. They go into that higher education going into basic physics or basic mathematics or whatever that, and going to higher education and engineering. Now, this was one method of solving this problem of whether the guy is really equipped for doing the research or not. Otherwise, everybody doesn't have the same kind of aptitude. Second thing is higher educational institutions which are there in our country today, they have to by themselves decide what is the optimum duration of the course, what is that they have to teach, is the teaching going to be in congruence with the reality of the technology which is evolving today, rather than somebody else coming and taking this, that, and all that. They have to decide. Somebody says integrated 4-year course I will do, somebody says I'll do 5 years course. All this should stop. Basically, focus should be that we are in a position to contribute to the society, both in terms of academic inputs as well as economic inputs. And to convert academic inputs into economic inputs, the journey to commercialization has to be facilitated by the government. This is a facilitation process which the government of India is today trying to do, facilitating the academicians or the researchers to take their products to commercialization. That's why all the policies which have emerged in the last 4 years are in that direction. And results are already you are seeing. This will happen. But we have a major problem because education is a concurrent subject. Unfortunately, being a concurrent subject, despite the fact that there are guidelines by UGC, by the AICTE and this, that and all that, the dilution takes place when the education policies are implemented in the state sector. Some states are doing very well. For example, Kerala, they are doing wonderful. They are doing very well. But some states are not doing well. I don't have to name. Now, this is a major problem that can be solved only if there is a certain amount of agreement on the education policy, that good points of the centrally governed policies, those have to be necessarily to be taken as part of this, and certain amount of autonomy the state universities and educational institutions have to get. I think there are a lot more to be done. This report should certainly be given to the Kasturi Rangan committee, in my opinion, because I do not know what report Kasturi Rangan committee has come up with. I hope it is not again a patch-up job over whatever has been there in the previous years. 1964 Kothari, then 1980s Yashpal committee, and I think now Kasturi Rangan committee. All these committees, if they are going to build on that, it is not going to change India's science sector. We have to make radical changes. That is all I can say.
Thank you very much. No, I was just reading through the knowledge systems of ancient India. All of you know that there's huge philosophical literature, there's a lot of very deep thinking in them. At the same time, there were at that point of time, 75 Vidyas were identified. Skills, essentially what we can today call skills, and which went from hairdressing to archery to looking after a cow and an elephant and so on and so forth. So if they could do it at that time, why is it that 2,500 years later, we are still kind of
All the technology at your command.
with all the technology and every method, etc., and with so many reports behind you. So I think this is really very strange that we are still looking for it. In my view, the failure, if there, we always try to put accountability. I think we have made our education system, which you also mentioned, education policies, etc., too rigid. We must relook at our UGC. We must relook at our AICTE, because they are the people who distribute resources, and which means all the educationists, I think, have to share the blame. Why is it? And somebody said at the class 3 level, or I would even say at upper KG and lower KG, you are sending a 3-year-old child to school today, and the cramming starts from there. I have seen an upper KG syllabus and one first, and there all this environmental. What you should do with the environment. There's a whole lot of 30-40 pages which a child has to learn. So because we are killing the creativity right then and there, and this is a criminal thing. I don't think it should. It's not even. I mean, I think you're, as a mother, probably you spoke. So this is what we have done to our education system. So at least start from there. Forget about the STEM. STEM will come much later, and STEM will come much better if you let a child play with mathematics and the blocks as a play, because creativity is play. You want to say something? I think something.
And they also run a research center called Mirambika.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yeah.
So my younger one goes there. My elder daughter, who's just in grade 3, goes to a regular school, and I can completely see what's happening there and how it's happening there. The Gurukul system that you're right now talking about, playing with maths that you're talking about, science existing in kitchens, Ayurveda there, all of it exists there. The projects that they take to learn, the project-based, learning, which is happening in that school, it is there. But why other schools are not being inspired is something even I
That
fail
is
to
because you have a
understand.
CBSE syllabus to cover.
Education 4.0 is that
Yes.
project-based learning.
No, which means we must get rid of the CBSE. We must get rid of all those people who actually made the CBSE. In these meetings in Ministry of HRD, when a mathematician sits, they come out with 20 things that the child must learn. When an environmental fellow sits, he says, no, नहीं, मेरी ये 20 चीजें आप पढ़ाइए उसको, तो बच्चा तो खत्म हो गया ना वहीं पे. उसे वो क्या करेगा? So I think
Complete the syllabus. They just say, do this. Nobody.
no, I think the answer to this is as I think somebody said here, judge them or evaluate them only a few things which are essential, like language, mathematics, and maybe environment, health, some social, and so on, and let others, let them, give them freedom to pick up what, let them, if they want to do music, let them do music, etc. Just test on a few things, and not this huge papers and huge syllabi which means everybody is. And I think parents are also to blame here. Mirambika, up to when you start thinking about a child, what will happen after? Where will she get admission? So Mirambika will not take her to probably IIT. It may take her to one NGO perhaps. You may or may not like it. So I think this whole system, this chain has to be. Yeah. But anyway, we come back to this STEM thing. The STEM thing itself, the important suggestions which have come out of this report is, one is this integration of skills. I think skills are very important, and this I think this whole issue of BTech and MTech has to be really revised. Sometimes these distinctions are also artificial. Perhaps get skills into it, and this seamless. What did you say? Seamless engineering. I think that's something one needs to, and of course, give all the autonomy. Which is you made that point. Big autonomy should be given to all the teachers and. Anyway, TRD, we don't want to go into that. I mean, DRDO is sitting here. सैलरीज अभी कम नहीं है साहब. अब गवर्नमेंट में तो बहुत सैलरीज है, 6th 7th पे कमीशन, इतना ज्यादा सैलरीज हो गई अब तो मेरा ख्याल वो क्या करते होंगे उस पैसे का मुझे मालूम नहीं. चलिए अब यहीं खत्म करते हैं, अदरवाइज वी विल गो टू सर. सो बिग थैंक यू टू एवरीवन, टास्क फोर्स मेंबर्स, हुडा साहब, सरस्वत साहब, एंड अग्रवाल साहब, एंड ऑफ कोर्स द ऑडियंस. Thank you very much. We will have a photograph with the task force members here. 2 minutes के लिए. Yeah.
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामया, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति.